this is Sarah with soiledplant and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about my top 5 favorite houseplants in my collection, as well as the bottom 5 houseplants in my collection. Now, there can be a ton of reasons why things are my favorites at the moment or things that are my least favorite, and I will detail all of those for you as they come. Of my top 5, I kind of chose different plants that have been catching my eye every time I'm in the area that they are in. It was honestly kind of hard to choose because I love so many plants in my collection. I just want to say that these are not in any particular order. It was hard enough for me to narrow it down to 5. But I am just going to get into it. The first one is my Allocation Cuprea. This one has been a little bit slow to grow because I found thrips on it and I've been treating it and it's been handling the treatments pretty well, and I feel like I've eradicated the thrip problem, or at least I'm keeping it at bay long enough for it to continue growing. This leaf right here just came out a couple of weeks ago, and it is just taking my breath away. Now, these plants in particular, it's kind of a love it or hate it plant. You know, they have a very insect kind of look to them, and they're very, very shiny. This one in particular, I am just in love with the look of it, and it is just so cool. I also love the fact that, you know, this was the original leaf it had when it was going through thrips and, you know, fighting it off, and it's starting to die back a little bit. I do love that the new growth that I got is almost the exact same size, which means it actually likes the conditions I have it in, and I feel like a lot of my rare or rarer plants are kind of struggling right now because I don't give it the proper attention and proper care. So this one looks like I've managed to figure out. It's doing really well. It doesn't punish me if I let it go a little bit too long before giving it a drink, and if I give it a drink a little bit too early, it also doesn't punish me. This one is definitely rewarding me for the work I'm doing, and honestly, what else does a plant mom really want is to have a plant say, "Yes, I love you, mommy. Thank you so much for taking care of me. Here's a brand new leaf that's just as stunning as the one I'm replacing." The next plant on my list is actually going to be a Calathea. This is my Calathea roseopicta dotty. I honestly bought this thinking I was going to kill it immediately, and this is one of my Calatheas that I have in my greenhouse, so it's getting super high humidity, like upwards of 70%. And it loves it in there. It is just thriving. It's giving me new leaves all the time. I have one leaf right here that's about 60% of the way unraveled. I have another growth point right here. That one is in the middle of unfurling right now, and this is another growth point right here. It's loving what I'm giving it. And this is one of the Calatheas that I've managed to get the watering down perfectly without the use of a self-watering pot. I have found that with all the Calathea behind me, the ones that are doing the best are the ones that I've put in self-watering pots. This one is just blossoming and becoming bigger and bigger, and it's gorgeous, and the leaves and all of the foliage is just stunning with the purple backs and the deep green mahogany looking fronts with the purple. There's hardly any green on this, it seems like, you know? And all of the plants, while I love green and the beauty that is green plants, it's kind of nice to have one that's a little on the goth side and a little more, you know, spooky looking almost, but it's also a beautiful pattern to it. So it's spooky with like a little bit of like flirty edge to it, and I love it. It's like if you wear a goth wedding gown that's all lace head to toe with a veil and a red lip. That's what this plant is to me. And she is beautiful. She is stunning. She is an immaculate specimen of plant beauty, and I'm here for it, and I'm glad that she loves me back, honestly. The third plant on my favorites list is going to be my Whalefin Sansevieria. She is a little crooked because I actually did water this about 3-4 days ago, so she's starting to lean. So I'll probably have to adjust the pot a little bit to make her completely vertical. I just can't stop staring at this plant. It has been one of the best plant purchases I've made in the last couple of months. It actually sits right next to my television, which gets a lot of my eyeball time. I mean, it's Corona. I'm watching a lot of Netflix and YouTube right now. I have a few plants that are over by my television. I have a Hoya pubicalyx and I have a coral snake plant. And this is the one I always stare at. This is the one that always gets my attention. And honestly, can you blame me? Like, it's basically a big paddle. It's a big paddle with like this beautiful little green pattern on it. Not only that, but the edges are like this blood orange color, this like orangey red all the way around the outside. And it is, oh my gosh, it's so cool. And it's one of those things that I don't see when I look at Instagram pictures and things like that. I'm more obsessed with the shape and the pattern of the green on the leaf, but I don't notice the little edging, and that is something that is so apparent to me in person, is that beautiful like reddish orange edge that is just perfection. It almost looks like if you had a pinstripe suit or something like that, and the edge just has like that little extra something that gives it a woo. That's what this has. It is so cool. I love it, and I want some more of it. Fourth plant I am going to talk about is actually my string of hearts, and I am going to carefully grab her. So this is plant number 4. I am still working on getting her conditions right. So I've put her in one window and she died. I had it in a different window and then it started rotting away because it wasn't getting enough light. I tried to move it to my porch, but my porch was north and eastern light, and that was not good enough. So I have it sitting in front of my south-facing window right now, but my south-facing window has a gigantic tree in the way, so it actually doesn't see the sky at all. And I'm working really hard to hopefully make sure she is getting the best I can possibly give her. So this is like the opposite of the other plants. So this one is kind of the opposite of the other plants I've shown you, where they're doing well and they're thriving, and that's why I love them. This one I am actually struggling hard with, but I still love it because it is so gorgeous. I have been on the hunt for one of these for a long time, and I ended up finding baskets at either like your big box store, Lowe's, whatever, Home Depot, and I found 2, and I bought 2 because I was so paranoid I was going to kill it. And I was correct, because I have basically all rehab plants now because they both tried to die on me. And I refuse. I refuse, I refuse. So if you have a string of hearts and you can give me any sort of advice, please, 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 I will take any advice you can give me. Whether it's about fertilizing, soil type, how much sunlight you give yours, how often you water, I will take any and all advice, because while I'm even looking at the strings in front of me right now, there are so many leaves that want to drop off, and it makes me so sad. But I would love for this thing to thrive. It is such a statement piece in your collection to have a vining plant that goes all the way to the floor or all the way down, you know, your shelving unit, or halfway down, whatever, or what have you. And this thing is so gorgeous, and I love it, and I just, oh, I want it to be happy so, so bad. And maybe my current, you know, housing situation isn't working for it, but I'm not going to live here forever. So if I need to, you know, for my next apartment or my next house that I live in, if I need to have a southern window with nothing blocking it, nor for this plant to survive, guess who's not buying that house if it doesn't have a southern facing window? I am that crazy person. I will do it. Just for this plant. Honestly, for all of my plants, but you know, a southern facing window with no blockage doesn't hurt when it comes to making sure your plants are happy, and this one would definitely love it. It's on here even though it is struggle bussin' hard, but I still love her, and I am going to do everything I can to make sure that I have something to show for having these plants. And I know they're fast growers, so as soon as I figure it out, it'll start blowing up. And I have had new growth since repotting it and rehabbing it, but I've still been losing leaves. So it's better. I'm improving, but it's not there yet. So give me some help. Any advice you can, guys. I will take any and all. My fifth and final plant that I am going to rave about today is probably no surprise to people who've watched all of my videos, because every time this plant is on screen, I basically coo like a little baby. Oh my gosh. This is my Philodendron Brazil. I bought this a year ago, and I bought it because I actually wanted the neon pothos and I couldn't find it, and they had this one, so I was like, oh, fine, I'll buy the Brazil, whatever. It's not what I want, but I'll buy it. And I brought it home, and it was fine, it did okay, And then ever since I've been here and put it in a spot that it really loves, it has been blowing up. It takes my breath away. Like every time I'm brushing my teeth in the bathroom and I just look at it lovingly while I'm brushing my teeth. And one thing I noticed from where I had it placed was I was getting leaves that were more limey, and that can happen when you're giving it more light than it needs. So I moved it to the opposite side of the shelf, and it's been giving me these beautiful leaves that are, have that little stripe down the center and that nice, gradient in between the two. And all of my growth points are like that. This is just the best example here. But this thing is my pride and joy. I love her so much. And she is growing like a champ. She is so happy. I love her so much. And oh my, I think everyone should have one. Seriously. And they're common enough that you can find them. It gives me so much pride. And this plant, like every time I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I can take care of plants. I'm freaking awesome. Good job. And everyone needs plants like that. Everyone needs plants that remind you that you're an amazing plant parent, and this is that plant. Also, special shout out to my Philodendron Plumini. I feel like every time I do these videos, I'll want to put that at number one, and I would be lying if I said that it was not my favorite plant in the house. It is a stunning plant. It is huge. It is growing like gangbusters. Just assume every time I do a video like this that that's actually my number one. So now on to my least favorite plants that I have in my collection. I'll say that these aren't plants that I hate by their own merits. These are just the ones that kind of keep me up at night and the ones that cause me the most stress. So these plants, if they were in good condition, tip-top shape, what have you, they probably would be on a I love it type of list. It's just I'm just personally struggling with trying to make them happy enough to make them grow and thrive, all of that. And without further ado, I'm going to start with the one that's given me the most grief of all of these, which is my Philodendron Melancholy. This plant is gorgeous. This plant, when they're healthy, they're stunning. And this one has not grown a single leaf for me since March. I have been putting it in my greenhouse. I'm making sure it's getting some good light. I have upgraded the light I've been giving it to hopefully, give it a little more light. Maybe that's what it needs. And I actually had a growth point come out and rot away. And then this new one come out from underneath it. And this one actually has, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see how this new growth is turning black in the center? And it's like mildly sticky. I have no idea what that is, and I'm worried that I am going to lose this leaf as well, and I don't know what to do about it. Like this one, I have actually gotten to the point where I think maybe I just can't take care of them, and I'm struggling because I don't have the proper conditions for it. So part of me is thinking that I might want to sell this as a rehab or something like that if I can't get it to grow. The roots seem to be in good condition and all of that, and I don't know how much time this leaf has before it's going to just, up and die on me. This one just makes me sad, honestly, because I can't make her grow. The next plant that I will share with you is this right here. This is a Monstera deliciosa. This is my baby one. Nothing is necessarily going wrong with this one, but it's not growing at the moment. The growth on the bottom is a little funky, and I already have two other deliciosas that are doing really well, and I'm not as intrigued by the baby deliciosa leaves. I know some people really like the juvenile look of deliciosas, but it's just not really my thing. So this is one that's like, there's not a whole lot of depth to it. It's just like it's two leaves. I think it's a little dorky looking, and I'm running a little low on space at the moment because I only have so many places I can put my plants where the cats won't get to them. As I'm running low on surface space, I'm starting to get a little more cynical about the plants I have and which ones I'd want to keep and which ones I don't. And this is one that is slowly creeping onto the don't want list. we'll see. And I love the little pot I put it in, you know, so I kind of like it. I go back and forth though. The next plant on my list here is going to be my Philodendron Black Cardinal. This one is more because I think I was giving it incorrect conditions for a little while, and I had 3 leaves that came in all foldy and wrinkly and nasty, and that's just how they are now. They're never going to smooth out and flatten out. So those leaves are going to be on my plant, you know, forever, basically, because it's got so many leaves down here that will fall off long before these ones do. So it's basically signed up to be an ugly plant for the foreseeable future, for at least the next year or two. And I love the new growth on it, and I'm wondering when this one eventually pops out. It is so close. It's got like, it's hanging on by a tiny little thread there. Hopefully you can see that, but it's like just about to pop up, just about to pop up. But I'm curious how that one is going to unfurl, if it's going to have the same problems. It's getting plenty of humidity, so part of me thinks it is a watering problem, so I've been trying to keep a better eye on the watering situation. If I have a 4th leaf that comes out wrinkly, like, what do I do at that point? You know, it still photosynthesizes and all of that, but like, what do I do? Is there anything I can do? Because clearly it doesn't like me personally. It just looks like a mistake. It looks like I've done something wrong, and it's going to be a constant reminder for years that I messed up. It just sits on the shelf and just, you know, looks at me and says, Sarah, you're a terrible mom. I don't like you. Everything you're doing is wrong. You know, in times like these, it's very nice that I have my Philodendron Brazil to remind me that, no, I'm okay. I know what I'm doing to a degree. I just don't know what I'm doing with you. And I will get better. Because these types of philodendrons and this growth pattern type of philodendrons, they're very common, and I'd like to get other varieties, but I definitely won't as long as I have no idea what's going on with this one. So the next plant on my do not like list is my Dracaena Janet Craig. She's been my basic baby for a long time. She was bought to basically fill up space, and I wanted just some foliage in one corner. And when you buy a plant specifically for just filling up space as opposed to buying a plant you want, you tend to not treat it as good as all of your other plants, at least in my case. And this one I actually did manage to take pretty decent care of. It was sitting in a good window and all of that. And when I moved my greenhouse and moved all of my plants to different areas that needed to move, this was one of those plants, and it hates it. It hates it, straight up. All of these brown tips have come out in the last 2 weeks, and they're everywhere. They're on, like, I have 3 little stalks, or 3 little growth points in here, and they are just all of them have it. Like, all of the tips are just brown and nasty and just being like, I don't like what you did. I see you, and you're awful. That is what she's telling me. Now, I do think it's very possible that I watered it too soon, and that is why it is also acting like this. Just to let you guys know, I am a chronic overwaterer, and if I underwater for any reason, it's usually because I either got busy or something like that and was like, oh no, I forgot for like 3 days. So I either water exactly when I need to, or I water it too soon. With plants that don't need water, I actually put a memo in my phone to say when I've watered each plant like this. And snake plants, the ZZ plants, and this plant, I write in my phone, hey, this is when I watered it. And then when I think about it and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, that needs water, you know, I need to put some water in that because I'm constantly thinking about watering my plants. I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, let me check my phone. Oh, it looks like I watered it 5 weeks ago. That's too soon. And I don't water it. With this plant, the last time I watered it, I forgot to put it in my phone. So what I did was I estimated in my brain, which is always a terrible decision. I estimated in my brain, well, I think it was like 2 months ago. Yeah, it was totally 2 months ago, the last time I watered this plant. I should totally water it, right? It could use some water. Honestly, I don't know how long it was, but I did water it, and I recorded in my phone the last time I watered it, which was about a week ago, and then magically all of my leaves are turning brown. So it very well could be a combination of the two, where I overwatered and I was giving it less light than it was getting before. That's totally possible. I at least know now to not do that, but for right now, it is another one of these plants that is a constant reminder to me that I did something wrong, and I don't like that. I don't like being told I do things incorrectly when I have very much done things incorrectly. I want you to tell me I'm doing a good job, plants. And on the plus side with this, all of the brown tipped pieces are kind of the outer pieces. So I definitely think it either is a lighting or a watering issue. All the center points of all of these growth points seem to be doing okay. They're not, screaming at me just yet. I definitely think it's recoupable and it's salvageable, but it's still made this list. The last plant I have for you on my least favorite plants of the moment makes my heart so sad because I want to love this plant so much, and it is my Syngonium albo. It has not put out a single leaf since the one it had when I first got it. It has not put out any more growth for me, and this is a Syngonium. Syngoniums are supposed to be some of the easiest plants, right? So I decided to look it up, and I'm like, okay, what could possibly be going wrong? Am I underwatering it? Am I overwatering it? Is it lighting? And I saw that for Syngoniums, generally they can do okay in low light. They prefer medium, except for ones with a lot of white variegation, that they actually prefer higher light. So I decided to put a grow light that I had left over from when I made seedlings years ago, when I for a second thought I was going to be some major vegetable grower, and that did not work out. I still had that light left over, and so I decided to put that over this plant, and then I burned the leaves, and my latest leaf I just completely killed. And all of the leaves left have this sun damage on it, or are starting to turn on me, putting it over the top. It was getting it for about 12 hours a day. So I think that was also too much, and I kind of needed to work it up to a little bit more light. And the way it is right now, I've got it getting more light than it was previously, but it hasn't put out new growth yet, and it hasn't been very long. I think I've got it in better conditions now, but it's taking so long. It's taking so long to grow a new one. And with this plant in particular, I am very scared that I'm going to lose all the leaves and it is just going to die on me, and I am going to be heartbroken because these are hard to find. And I actually got this one from an international order, and I would love to have a big old Syngonium albo, or a big bushy Syngonium albo, because I think they are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful plants. So this one makes me very, very sad, very nervous, and that is why it is on my stress-inducing, least favorite, what have you, on my list here. So that concludes my list of my top 5 favorite houseplants in my collection and least favorite houseplants in my collection. If you liked my video, feel free to subscribe, like the video, comment down below. All of those things, they really help my channel and help other people discover me and hopefully also enjoy my content the way you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!